Welcome everybody to the OWCraft podcast covering esports culture. This week I'm joined by our guest, Notrob from the Omniclab podcast. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good. It is balmy and humid here in southern Japan.
That's so cool. What time is it there in Japan?
Well, it is currently 9:35 p.m., so it should be about 6:35 a.m. in Eastern time zone.
It's pretty badass. I've part of my family's from Japan. I've never actually got to go myself though, so really want to go.
Depending on where they're at, you could really enjoy it if you get to the right places and know the right people.
So playing, do they have a Japan Overwatch server on?
They actually do not. They have the localization for the languages in the client, so you can select the language, but they recommend that if you're playing from Japan, you play through the Asia servers. So
like
it
Korea.
kind of falls under the same kind of category of player experiences playing on EU in EU. Latency is great. You get through latency issues fairly fine, decent ping if your internet's okay. But the language barrier is a little crazy because you got people from France and people from Germany and people from UK. So you have English and German and French, and they're all on the same team. This is a similar subculture where you have people from like Australia and West Coast United States waking up for their commutes, and then you have like playing on Asia, and then you have Koreans and Chinese folks and Japanese people playing in the same game. So communication is not the best.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I hear from a lot of my European friends that they like to play on the America servers just because.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just because they all the language barriers. It's not so much bad as it is on America.
Yeah, without a doubt. I know a lot of people in our podcast community that are our EU players have told me that they don't mind playing with latency for the sake of their own sanity sometimes. So I definitely can relate because I refuse to play in Asia after like de-ranking a bazillion ranks, trying to play in Asia because I really liked having 50 ping. So
yeah. So you struggle and try to play on NA servers, I guess, with higher?
Yeah, I can only play on NA because I just can't. I can't play with Asia folks. Like I had played, again, small sample size, but the sample size of what I had played on Asia was just the worst experience. And it wasn't even just having a bad set of games. Like the quality of play in my platinum games is just awful. Like it felt like I was playing on my silver account on NA. So
yeah,
it was pretty bad.
And I imagine like not many people speak English in the Asia server because like they're just like that's from their country,
Mm-hmm.
so it must be harder.
I mean, you get the Naisu memes going on when plays are happening, so that's always fun.
That must be fun. So, why do you think this is actually going to be an interesting question? Why do you think Japan has not necessarily because I know like Japan has like traditionally been like the tech gaming like hub, and you know it's more like Korea for esports now, but it still has like a huge base in like game devs and obviously Nintendo and all this like stuff like that. But why do you think Japan is? I don't want to be inaccurate here and say this, but why do you think they are late to the esports game? Because that's what it most certainly feels like. And I feel like there's not like a lot of server support like when there probably could be. Maybe it's like base of numbers. Do you have any insight on that? I know it's just kind of out there kind of question.
My grad degree is actually in cross cultural studies, and I studied particularly Asia and tried to write as many things that I was able to about Japan. So for what it's worth, most of my education is going to be theoretical, and then some of it will be also skewed by me living in southern and what they quote unquote will call rural Japan, because when you get to rural Japan, there's like a big level of rural because the population density of my prefecture in Yamaguchi and my home state of Indiana are a little different. So I want to lead into the question by giving you a little bit of a baseline. So like Indiana is about 15 times the size of Yamaguchi prefecture, and prefecture is kind of like a state or a province if you're, from a different country, depending on where you're from. So the prefecture itself is about 15 times smaller, but the population density is only about, 5.4 times smaller. So it's way more densely populated. And this whole thing in Indiana is being made fun of because the description of Indiana, if you want to give any state in America a quick one-liner to describe the state, is Indiana, the state where anyone and everyone drives through it to get to somewhere more interesting. So in the Midwest, Indiana is known for being one of the flat states, but Kansas in all honesty,
I don't want to
exactly.
Kansas, but I remember driving.
Right. But in all honesty, half of the United States is mega freaking flat.
Yeah.
So, but Yamaguchi literally translates as entrance into the mountains. So I can open my windows and see like 6 or 7 mountains just out on the horizon. So there are mountains everywhere here, and I'm near the beach, and it's still considered rural. Like I have to bike past ton of fields of rice on my way to school like every day to go teach English. So to answer the question, I think that my community is not necessarily representative of the entire country, and it's not densely populated, nor does it even have a very dynamic population variance with non-Japanese and Japanese. Like in my whole city, I don't even think there's more than 10 people that are,
Gamers.
White, Caucasian, English natives, whatever you want to put that label as, like non-native Japanese folks. So that all being said, I feel like it does set a little bit the stage for how I'm going to look at this to answer, because I really think that you have to look at the culture of Japan and not necessarily like the game industry, because the game industry, they have all of the mega leaders in gaming that come from Nintendo are, Japanese natives. I mean, you got even people like Miyazaki making the Studio Ghibli films that are like giving Disney a run for their money, So, I mean, there's no stretch of innovation here in Japan. The difference is that, they've always had these declining birth rates, and the culture here is getting older and older and older, regardless of how creative or innovative this country and their people might be, and even, how talented they are in video gaming. But it's just strange that Overwatch is not there. And I know that in my prefecture, especially in my city, there's like nothing here for LAN centers or going out to go play games, and the study culture is so ingrained in students to go home and study that even in high schools, like high school isn't what they call oh gosh, I just lost it. It basically, it's not a required educational platform.
Right.
Like they have to pay to go to high school.
They can it's like college almost. Like you don't have. It's like an option, but people end up.
Yeah, exactly. You have like applications and entrance exams. Yeah, exactly. So it is very, very difficult. And then once you get into then it's 3 years. So once you get into your 3rd year of high school, you have 3 trimesters, and in your first trimester, about halfway through the trimester, whatever club you're in part of, so whether it be swim team or drama club or English club, or you have something that had to do with sports, like, well, not that swim team isn't a sport, but tennis and soccer and baseball are like the big ones, and volleyball. Their sports are year round. I mean, they don't even get a day off, unless the coach says so.
So I guess maybe it has something to do with the fact that they're more focused on that type of culture rather than the eSports and gaming culture and the youth. Even though it is like there is a presence, it's more based on academic.
Yeah, and then you got to look at what games are actually popular here. Like the country that has the most following for Splatoon Pro scene and casual scene is Japan. And Splatoon 2 is actually it actually released if I'm correct in this, from the recording of this podcast, it's probably about 5 hours before we recorded. Splatoon released in Japan.
Oh wow! I remember the open beta or the closed beta or whatever it is, and I saw some people play it. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
sorry, Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2.
Oh, okay.
It just released for Nintendo Switch, and I think it
Oh
might
yeah,
be
they're a
on
little
Wii
bit
U
ahead.
as well. Yeah. So it'll be releasing on Friday the 21st for you guys. By the time you're hearing this, it's probably already out. But it's got a mega huge following, and that game is super popular. Like, I could go walk up to some kid in the street that is any age and say Splatoon, desu ka? And they'll be like, oh yeah, they would know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a childhood name like Mario or Naruto here. Kind of like if you go to America and you mention Breaking Bad, like even second graders know what you're talking about.
That is kind of scary to think about. But
yeah, it really is. It really is. But yeah, like you look at the other games that like what do you think of when you think of a Japanese gamer? Like what game pops into your mind?
First thing is like Nintendo, so then like Pokemon.
Okay.
And,
so Pokemon probably, yeah.
Just like
that was my first thing.
Like just like the console, the Wii in general. So like, you know, the Zelda game, just anything that like is produced by Nintendo comes to mind, like in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then Final Fantasy.
What about Square Enix?
Yeah, I was about
What's Square Enix stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing that comes immediate to mind. So like a lot of cool RPGs and stuff.
All right, so let's take a bet. Yeah, so let's go into that then. Like, what genres then does that encapsulate?
So, RPGs, maybe not even necessarily multiplayer games, but more so like these types of platformers or just
platformers, puzzles, JRPG, RPG. So, you're missing a mega huge genre, which is one of the strongest categories outside of Pokemon.
Hack and slash
and TCGs. What did you say?
I said hack and slash. I'm not sure.
Fighting games.
Fighting games. Okay, so like Street Fighter and stuff.
Japanese players are insane at fighting games.
Yeah, you have the arcades and everything too, where they go.
Skullgirls, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, especially, man. Their Street Fighter players are bananas good. And Marvel vs. Capcom players, like, just go watch Evo and see how many people are from Japan. Like, there's I can't even remember his name. I was watching some Evo player play Smash Bros. And just dumpstering people from the States. It was awesome. So, like, I think that the pro scene and the esports is there, but for whatever reason, it must just be the team aspect that is just really tough here for people to put things together, which is odd because there's such a community-based culture, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like it can catch on. I feel like Overwatch is very popular. I had a student that is a Bastion main in Gold that I actually was able to talk with. He's one of my brighter students in my visit school. For obvious reasons, I can't give you his name or what the school is or what the city is. But I haven't gotten a chance to play with him yet. But I'm really looking forward to finally making that call when we can actually play together. He gave me his gamer tag, and I can't even remember it now. All I remember is that he showed me his gamer tag, and I laughed out loud because it was an English translation of a Japanese word, and he gave me the biggest smile. It was the funniest thing. But yeah, like I think that Japan not only can participate in esports, but can also excel in it. Maybe not to the same extent that you're going to be seeing coming out of, you know, places like Taipei or Australia or Asia, or Asian countries like China and Korea. But I feel like they could get there. I mean, they have the dexterity. I mean, if you play a fighting game, we'll just have a bunch of Doomfist mains in a couple months, you know, like we'll be fine. So I'm hoping that Doomfist launch actually is what brings more people from Japan to start playing, at least in my prefecture, but I'm very curious to head over to other areas.
I really like the Doomfist character, just like the design. It really resembles fighting games to me, like just the combos you can do.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, hopefully that's not too long-winded of a answer for you, but I get really jived up when people ask me about culture, so...
I was unaware that you studied it too. Like, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But no, that was a pretty good answer, actually. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, I was just saying like the culture side is just so top heavy
Hmm.
because you have so many old people that even when you get the younger folks in schools and doing their things, like it's just not upheld. Like it's very difficult to have an esports career because
Yeah.
it's so frowned upon by the elderly who are generally the most populated age group.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just tough.
I can kind of like it's not as rough as it is in America, but it is somewhat like that. It's getting more mainstream now in America, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure in
Mm-hmm.
Japan it must
There's a lot
be
of support.
worse. There's a lot of support for it now. You mean in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
100%.
even in my home city, I could drive 15 minutes and actually there's a land center. And my city is not the biggest, just like right outside of Indianapolis. It's kind of a smaller place, but it was the only place that I could go that had under, 80 ping that I wasn't having to play on Wi Fi with a laptop. So I would go there like every week and play.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I have a land center near me, like 20 minutes away, which is interesting because, like, even in Virginia, like, which is where I live at, they don't have
Hmm.
much support for esports here, and I think that's going to change soon with the Overwatch League, because DC might
Oh,
become a
yeah.
hub for esports, which is exciting to think about, because it's always been the West, right? Like, basically,
Hmm.
like California is just like the only esports place, and like just like
Yeah.
I mean now there's places like Atlanta with high res, and just like there's different cities, and then also Boston is like very indie game heavy, so that's
Yep. Yep. All the developers live out there in Boston.
things are definitely improving, and I like the Overwatch League, and I think this would be a cool transition, because they introduced the localization of the Overwatch League, and just like that's what it is, like the localization of teams. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, as far as like the culture and the scene of esports, and like what that might
Yeah,
lead
I
to?
kind of I kind of wish they would give us some more information about the localization. Like they
Hmm.
mentioned it. They talked that they were gonna to do that. They're like trying to make it so that there's home field advantage, somewhat of a pseudo thing by bringing people into the land to go play. There's obviously going to be merchandise, in-game merchandise, out-of-game merchandise. There's all kinds of cool stuff that they're going to do with that. But like with the localization, there's such a huge hurdle with global localization, even though globalization is definitely a thing, right?
The
I mean,
cross
we're seeing
culture
that
is
with
what we're
just
touching on,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Like crossing cultures is both a one of the most beautiful things that you're ever going to encounter in your entire life, and it will also be equally as most terrifying thing if you stay under it for a very long time. And staying under it, I use that very carefully because you don't really ever experience the cross culture thing for an extended time period, aka like a year or six
Right.
months, without experiencing what they call culture shock, and then almost like a somewhat of a destruction of your own culture because you're finally exposed to something that is unique, and then now your culture and your worldview have now meshed with that of another, and so you're not really quite sure like who you are or who what either of the groups are. You just kind of are frustrated in the middle, and also equally is like everything that you guys do in this category are amazing, but this all sucks. And then I go over here and it's like they've figured out everything that sucks about my own home culture, but they also have their glaring issues. So to go along with Overwatch and to make this question not last forever, um, I think that the localization is going to be one of the largest things outside of the legal ramifications and contracts that they're going to actually need to overcome, for obvious things, right? We only have 7 groups,
Yeah, that's
and
what I thought.
one is in Korea and one is in China. And I've been talking with lots of my buddies in our Discord, and the guy that does the Omniclab website, his tag is the Switch Fox on Reddit. He's
Right.
one of my admin, and he was telling us about that, and we're like actually partnering with him, so we're doing like this cross promo on our website for his stuff every show, and he's got a slot for our podcast on his thing on his website. So, but Switch was telling me, he's like, yeah, I think they just need way more teams, and I was like, if Korea by the time this starts doesn't have 3 teams, I think it's gonna be a bomb. because like Korea has to have minimum 3 teams
Yeah.
to start for them to even be interested. And then on top of that, EU is just not even represented yet.
Not even there yet. They don't have any teams.
Yeah, like we need a Paris team, we need a London team, we need.
And that's even more difficult too, because it's like there's different countries in Europe, so it's like you want to represent like at least like as many countries as you can to get like the audiences from those countries respectively, kind of like they do in the World Cup. Which is cool that they do the World Cup. That's
right.
Interesting.
And with this many languages, do you realize how many casters you've now got to book and pay?
Yeah.
And get and cannibalize viewership? Like you actually need to set up, Overwatch FR, Overwatch NA, Overwatch, UK, Overwatch Shanghai, Overwatch ASU or AUS, JP, all of these locations. And within the localization, I can take it to the bank that you go and watch, OGN,
right?
And they don't have a Korean-only channel. You're getting 0 viewers from Korea on that channel that has as an English channel. Like they'll probably just mute the stream, and you might get some viewers. Like it's the same thing here in Japan. Like if there's an eSports going on and there's no Japanese commentators, you can forget it's publication. Like they're gonna ignore it. They're only gonna show it up in the newspapers in print if someone that's in Japanese has a top 4 finish, and then maybe. So I think the localization is a big hurdle, and I think that. I'm not worried that Japan will have a slot eventually in OWL, but I don't think they're going to be the pioneers because this culture is way too cautious. And even investors, I don't think that they're going to jump on it. If anybody invests, it's going to be a game owner, game developer, or mega tycoon that just happens to live here that really wants to put a spot in Tokyo,
so cool.
Osaka, or Kyoto. But I am pulling for it. I would love to see 3 teams from Japan.
Dude, I would do everything to play on the Japan team. That would be the dream. Honestly.
Symmetra only Japan team. Let's go.
Will be like the Genji Hanzo mains. Like only play Genji.
Oh my gosh. The Japan team's only known for playing Shimada.
Yeah.
Everything else doesn't matter. And they always choose Hanamura.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That would be for some epic games. So I'm excited about the Overwatch League. I do think they really need to just release information as soon as possible. I talked about this a little bit this week with Ginger Pop when I was interviewing him, but
sure, yeah.
Just kind of there isn't any information. There's no support for any of the current players or even the pro players in the scene. So it's like it raises a huge challenge, and it's something they need to start releasing more content, even like just content like about the Overwatch League. Like any piece of information would be huge for the community, just to kind of keep them going with it, so they don't lose interest or just forget about it, or just some of the basic stuff that we should know, like you said, with the going through the different the lands and the home advantages, maybe the in-game items, or just some of the technicality stuff.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to know about.
Now, I hate to be that guy, but what if we flip this on its head and think from the realm of Blizzard, they're going through legal loopholes, But I was thinking about this just today on my bike ride home. I was like, well, I'm super frustrated that I don't have enough information. I'm super frustrated that my favorite players are not represented or even guaranteed to have a slot to play, even though they have a contract with a professional organization and sponsorships and Twitch partnerships and all that.
Yeah.
But I think that Blizzard's answer to what X, Y, and Z are going to be are actually pretty contingent on who's buying in and how many are buying in. Because it sounds like it's somewhat of a 20 million buy-in, and 5 mil that's probably up front. And then, over however many months, you got to pay off the 15 mil that you still owe. So having 7 teams, 7 times 5, 35 mil startup cost that each individual's racking up 5, but Blizzard's getting that 5 mil cut. Yeah. This is an unbelievable endeavor. And I can't even imagine sitting in the legal office just on having the endless spree of licensing meetings.
Oh my God.
Like, that sounds like an
Every
absolute
day.
borefest nightmare combined. That sounds way worse than even translating just for hours, for localization team.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much work that they have to do on this.
And then like convincing the potential investors as well to try to even jump on board with it, which I think is probably not their biggest concern right now. But
I mean, they have OWCraft. They can pull whatever they want. They just have to get people to also buy in. And then not only I think the other issue is going along with the localization and legal ramifications and loopholes with partnering both a city with a personnel staff of that city with the investor. So I could be an investor. Let's say I want Vegas, or let's even make it more relevant because we don't need any more NA teams because we just know in the future that we're going to get more anyways.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's go Sydney, Australia. Okay, so I'm an investor. I'm filthy freaking rich. I'm OWCraft's great uncle Dan. Okay, so
Jeff Kaplan's
and I
son.
live in Sydney. Jeff Kaplan's son. Oh, rip. Okay, so let's do something that's a little bit more relevant. I want to find this guy's name while I'm looking it up. Let's say I am the owner of MTG or Magic the Gathering.
Right. Okay.
And I happen to just move to Australia. And I want to have a team. So now if I want a team and I have a location selected and I have my money ready in my hands, there's still work to do. Not just like me handing, the guys at Blizzard's office 5 mil up front or hitting the transfer button on my bank account. But I have got to have meetings with Blizzard, and Blizzard, I don't know what the ramifications are. Like, is it my responsibility as an investor to go into that city and have people partnered up and say, hey, look, I'm using X stadium and Y merch shop for any time that we have this going on, and we need to have these days available. This is the general scope of how we're going to structure our events. Oh, by the way, it happens in a West Coast time zone, so it's going to happen at like, super late in the afternoon or early in the morning, which is more likely. It's actually early in the morning to go and compete. If they're going to go cross-platform, if they're going to do the LANs and not scrims, then they have to do that. You have to buy housing for your team, which obviously not all of this, the teams that have bought in have even done yet, right? Because we've got only 2 teams, which is what, Immortals and Misfits, or no, sorry, we have 3 teams. Immortals, Misfits, and NRG are the only 3 named esports teams that have bought in. The other ones are just people, CEOs.
Yeah.
Billionaire owners.
Omniclab.
Yeah, Kraft, the guy that owns the distributor for Blizzard games in China.
Oh, okay.
That's in the Shanghai team, and then you got the Kabam owner in Korea. So, I mean, there's just I don't like making excuses for Blizzard and the investors at this point, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got to be patient. Even people that wanted to go fast inside of Blizzard can't. So I think that at this stage, they need to find all of the locations outside of like the localization desires that they have and find the locations that are logistically going to happen Q1, that they can run a first like preseason of this and get something that logistically can work and gain attention, gain investors. And then not only will they have a few more people buying into this, but they can start slowly upfront and later on increasing the total buy-in pricing. Because basically these guys are guinea pigs right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks to say that, but I mean, OWCraft is a guinea pig for esports right now. But as I've heard many other people saying, Blizzard is putting all of their eggs in this basket.
Yeah, they're going all
Like
out to make it successful. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, did you know that they ripped out of making the Hearthstone Global World Championships at BlizzCon now?
So
they're not doing them at BlizzCon anymore.
Oh wow.
They're doing them after. So they might do like some show matches, like a challenge stone with some cool personalities. I don't know what they're going to do with the StarCraft finals. I don't know. I don't think they're doing anything with Heroes of the Storm
All their
or
other games are like on the back burner, basically.
Like World of Warcraft might be there, but I mean, like, how much support do you really see for those games? I mean, they really wanted it to happen with Heroes of the Storm, but it just didn't gain as much popularity as quick enough to really go up toe to toe to take down the giant that is League of Legends and Dota.
Right.
I mean, Dota still has, $1 million of prize pool money just flowing out all the time.
Yeah. So that comp scene.
So I think Blizzard's really committing hard to this, and we will take time if there's anything that we've learned. I'm just surprised that they're retaining any attention, even if it's negative. It's still attention. Like, people are still giving it top priority of coverage, even if it's negative. And if there's anything we've learned with a Donald Trump presidency and election, it's just that negative press is any press is good press, right? It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive.
That's the saying. Yeah. So I think that I like the security, that the fact that I just believe in Blizzard and their ability to be able to bring the Overwatch League to the forefront of esports. So I give it more of my investment than maybe others would give. But
sure,
maybe I'm a fanboy of esports for it, or just kind of I believe in it. But I think it will have its challenges.
I don't
but
I'm kind of in the same boat, XR. I think you're right in believing that. And honestly, mine isn't even necessarily that I believe in Blizzard as much as I believe in Overwatch. Like, nobody's doing anywhere close what this game has been doing for me for months. Not just in content creation, like the game is just good. It's a good freaking game. And there's infinite possibilities with what they can do for players like me and for top level players and spectators. Like, they've just got any possible option. That team is incredible. I mean, the fact that they just scrapped an entire game and then phoenixed out Overwatch out of that's pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah, it's definitely like probably the best game I've ever played.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't get game of the year and do nothing with that,
Yeah. So how did you get into Overwatch originally? I know you probably played other Blizzard games like before that, but how did you get introduced into Overwatch?
Sure. So since I took a ton of time with the other questions, I'll try to make this a little bit more brief because it's less relevant to most people's interests. They're more interested in Overwatch and not necessarily me. So, but I played a lot of Warcraft growing up. I started about midway through high school. My favorite expansion and objectively the best expansion was Wrath of the Lich King, if you've played all of them. But I always like to say that because that's just the one that I played and I liked before I hit college. But Lich King was my favorite. They're actually getting ready to do a Lich King expansion for Hearthstone next month. And I am beyond hyped for all of them nostalgia bugs to go crazy haywire. But I love Blizzard stuff. I never really got into Diablo until D3. Actually, when I moved to Japan, I picked it up and started playing with my wife and really enjoyed it. But I definitely very casual. I got her into Warcraft right after grad school. We played a lot and then just had to drop it because my wife got motion sickness with a camera, even though she really enjoyed it. So I was like, well, if we can't stay in the game, I think we got to try something else. So, I mean, that's why we went to Diablo. It worked out pretty well, but then I got really busy with the podcasting gig and playing 2 games because I have another podcast about Hearthstone and I have this one for Overwatch, Omniclab. So, but anyways, I played Warcraft and Blizzard games, like mostly centered around that. I picked up Hearthstone when I was in graduate school is when closed beta started, and I just immediately fell in love with it because I'm a big Yu-Gi-Oh player. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon TCG when I was a kid.
Me
I
too.
did local tournaments at a card shop, so
That's so
I
cool.
would win with take my little brother with me, and we'd win tournaments on low weeks because there wouldn't be that many people there. And we'd just dumpstering people because we knew all their decks already. So we would just be like, if it's a low week, we'll just put in some tech cards and beat them because they don't have, none of us have any big card pools. Like, we don't even have a day job at that point
Yeah.
in our little junior high careers. But
I've probably spent like
yeah, so that's kind of what brought me to the Blizzard games.
I've probably spent like $5,000 on Yu-Gi-Oh cards growing up.
Jeez.
Like,
I know that
I don't want to talk about it.
there was years of my life that my lawn mowing money from Saturday afternoons were tournament entrance fees and a card pack.
Card pack, yeah, they add up after time. You don't even realize it.
I don't even want to know how much I've spent on that. All I know is that Hearthstone, I've spent a lot of money on Hearthstone, and it doesn't even pale in comparison to physical card games. And people still whine about that because Hearthstone's quote unquote free to play. But yeah, I played a lot of Halo in high school right before doing a ton of stuff with Warcraft.
Right.
So I felt like I played Xbox though. I'm that filthy casual. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really liked shooters though. That's the weird thing. I've always been an MMO dude. I played a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and Pokemon, so I'm a big strategy guy. And I'm not really like super great at shooters. I felt like I was able to achieve a high rank, but I just had good friends, and I was always at least good enough. And then PC, I've never even had actually a gaming laptop until I moved or a gaming computer until I moved to Japan. I've been playing on laptops forever.
Oh wow.
So
It's a big difference.
it's a massive difference. To give you an idea, I have a MSI laptop, which is the best and most powerful thing that I had before moving to Japan. Like that was my best machine. And then since the podcast took off, I moved to Japan. I now have a 144 hertz monitor. I have a Ferrari of a machine with a 1080 GTX, thing in it. I've been able to work my finances around to get out all of these things, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
But Overwatch is just taking over, man. It's good stuff.
That's my next
It's a good drug.
investment,
It's a good meme.
It's a good meme. I'll have to quote you on that in the future.
Oh, no.
It's a good meme. But you're not wrong.
Front page of Reddit stuff right there.
Yeah. Yeah, 144 hertz is definitely my next investment for a monitor.
Oh, glorious.
I really need it. I've played at LAN centers with it, and it makes a huge difference, even though like you might not think it does, especially for Overwatch with the input lag on 60 FPS.
You have no idea.
Yeah,
it's the difference between
amazing.
Being a prophet and being enlightened. Like that's how big of the difference is. Like it's crazy.
I can't wait because I think I'll be able to actually play DPS if I pick up one of those monitors. Just because I'll be able to.
You won't be a Symmetra main anymore.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I'll actually like want to play DPS because that's what I feel like at the LAN cafe. It's like, wait, I can aim. I'm gonna actually play a character like Soldier or something, and play this character because I'm on a better monitor. So like it like almost inspires me not to.
You want to know a funny story about the first time I got one?
Yeah.
When I first got my monitor. So I run into Quick Play, and this is before Hook 2.0 goes in, and I never play Roadhog. I'm a support main.
Yeah.
Play all of the supports all the time. And my only DPS that I play is Soldier because he has an aimbot every couple minutes.
Right.
I pick Roadhog. My first game with a 144 hertz monitor, decked out everything, set up all my settings, in-game, out-of-game, set up my new, mouse setup with the monitor and the new PC. And granted, this is going to be a lot more than typical because I went from a laptop to a Ferrari machine plus 144 hertz monitor.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, I had like a 75% hook accuracy my first game on Roadhog. I mean, I was hooking tracers predictively from blinking, and I was like, I might be able to climb to diamond next season.
Just off the one.
But Yeah, I was definitely a little overzealous because I was playing in gold at that point. But like after I got all my new stuff and play with the good gear, I hate to say Overwatch is pay to win, but I hit plat for the first time and I haven't dropped. I've been able to get out of gold anytime I hit it and get back into plat, which is, a lot of people that listen to stuff think you're a scrub if you're not in GM, but they're partially right because the people on my teams are pretty bad. But
Yeah, it's a grind. I was in a lower rank for quite a while too, and then I just kept pushing through, and I'd be stuck at like a place for uh like 100, 200 hours before I would even like advance. And I mean, it's just a lot of
yeah,
practice, I guess. And right now
yep,
I'm stuck in
yep.
like high G. I can't break. I mean, I don't want to.
You're stuck in like 150 SR range, like 4350 to 4200. I see you fluctuating in
Yeah,
that every day.
I can't break past to like to a higher level, and it's hard because that's where like the top of the players are. So it's like, well, they're just better.
That's where the
So it's
500
like,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my hardest to just constantly improve and do what I can to see. I mean, there's a lot of players up there. Sometimes they have like different tactics to climb as well, but I mean, all I know is like as long as you're improving and having fun, that's what matters most of the time. And
Yeah. I've been getting pretty tilted this season.
uh,
Just from not even like bad players are tilting me anymore, which is odd because that was like the only thing that tilted me. But like, I just can't get around people that are just like openly toxic, just so quick. Like the
yeah,
game doesn't even
the game
start.
isn't
I'm
even
like,
started.
how are you this tilted before we started?
It's such a crazy phenomenon. Like it happens all the time. Like the game
Yeah,
starts and there's already people AFK in the base not trying to win, and it's like, are
yeah,
you serious? Oh my gosh. And it's been happening more this season, maybe because players are more burnt out than others, but
yeah. It's happening at every rank too. I mean, I
yeah,
know people
yeah.
complain about it that GM all the time, but I mean, it could be it's trickling down. It could be people that are just tanking their rank all the way down, doing the same stuff, and that's why you're seeing them in silver now, even though they were in Masters this season. I
Oh
mean, they've just
no.
been throwing. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw a guy on my silver account that had hit like he was like 2 games away from plat this season high, and he was at like 1850. Or I'm sorry, he was 2950 or something like that as a season high, and then he was playing at 1850. Like the dude just tumbled all
Yeah.
the way down the mountain.
It's people like that, probably get tilted because they can't like reach the goal, so it just gets progressively worse. You see that a lot in like high
Yeah.
masters because the players like they can't hit GM or stay in GM consistently, or even like they can't stay in top 500. So I
Ah.
honestly think that GM is probably worse than all of the other SRs. Diamond's pretty bad too, like low diamond, because they're like, oh, I can't get to diamond, or like I can't get to masters. So there's a bunch of salty people in that same
Yeah.
respect. But a lot of players in GM, like they literally don't care. Like so they will throw games left and right, and then
Or one tricks.
yeah, or one tricks. They're just casually playing. And I mean, I played Sim season 3 like completely just Sim, but now I kind of flex. But I mean, like they just don't care. They don't try to work around the team, or they'll like purposely like just play something that isn't going to give you the best chance of winning, and it's because they literally know that there's no way of them hitting top 500, and sometimes that just makes them like not care as much, and it's that sounds like not like a bad thing completely, but it really like affects like the game just in general. Like when there's people that just are queuing up and they've already given up before the game started, or they just like aren't trying to, they're not playing to win. It makes a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And 2CP and Koth maps, I mean, you do one round and then somebody leaves. That's the other thing that's been going around a lot.
yeah, I think that happens a lot more in lower rank, but I don't have
Oh,
like
yeah.
I can't prove that, but I think it does.
Well, I mean, my personal experience playing on my second account that's in silver. I mean, I had people leave the game when I insta-lock Hanzo, and then I'll still win 5v6 because I mean, if they're dead, they can't cap the point. So
Yeah.
But then you also have other teams in 2CP that are like just raging at me, and I had a guy that I was trying to help play Mercy, and he just took every little thing that I'm trying to help this guy out. He didn't res one time in 3 rounds of Koth because he was dead at the beginning of every fight because he just dives in to go rescue the tanks instead of staying back. Yeah, and he's like, this Tracer's killing me a ton of times. I was like, dude, shoot her. You have every 2 seconds you can fly. You got wings, girl. Use them. And like, I don't know. It was really tilting because like I would kill 4 of them and we would lose. When I die, we would lose a 5v2 on point. And I'm like, I don't know how to carry you guys. My backpack is not big enough to climb this mountain and carry you guys.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like that a lot too.
But yeah. I mean, I would be curious as to what your listeners think about this too, because this is something that happens. Everybody's talking about how toxic or how fatigued the community feels this time for season 5. People are always upset at the ladder, but it feels like it's just such a main topic of discussion now, rather than like an extra one when a lull in news is happening.
I mean, I think people generally, like, the consensus is that the ladder system right now is very sucky. Interesting adjective. I think it's very
straight out of Elf.
It's very sucky.
Very sucky.
But the other thing is, I think they don't punish like the trolls enough. Like they need to actually probably take a look at the report system, and maybe they said they like revamped it, but they need to go a step further, I think, and actually take a look at some of like these players that are being toxic and also throwing games. And then the other thing is just the reason why the ladder system isn't where it needs to be, in my opinion, is I think that it's just stale for some people, and also, and I talked to this a little bit about with Ginger Pop a few days ago, and he was saying that he doesn't think that SR should be based on the individual hero. It should be more overall based on like your performance or just like win, because you get into the details where you're actually getting more SR if you play more optimally to just playing well, or let's say you're avoiding dying just so you can get better stats, so therefore you're getting more SR. And sometimes you're not going to be getting as many stats if you're trying to play for your team and winning, which means you're going to get less R, like as opposed to winning. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things they should change about the system, is maybe change the way SR is gained, and also maybe reset the MMR would help, but it would eventually kind of just go back to the way it is. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like to come at it from a different angle because I'm not at the top level like you and Ginger Pop and other folks.
Right.
I actually think that Overwatch's ranked system is not horrible. I think that the problem is that how people interpret the ranked system isn't being described very well, and there's not enough of a progression. Because your progression now is like, oh, I get this cool new icon from bronze to silver at once I snap 199, I'm 2000. I'm sorry, once I snap 1499, I'm 1500. I get that silver icon. Or 1999, you snap to 2K, you get gold, and 2500 in plat, and 3K and diamond, and 3500 masters, and 4K, GM. Yeah. And then top 500. So I think that the progression system, they had mentioned this before, and people are just ignoring it. They're like, I think that we need to add more ranks in between, like a halfway point in plat, like getting to mid plat. Mid plat is tough, dudes. Like, yeah, that's when the games get different. Like, there is a significant difference at almost every 100 SR or 200 SR. I think that you need to have some sort of differential treatment with not only how those games are rated, but how people are getting matched.
Matched. I was about to bring
I think
that
this,
up. Yeah, the matchmaking needs
yeah,
some restructuring.
matchmaking is intricately needs to be more integrated. Sorry, needs to be more integrated, closer to the progression and the skill together. Because like in League of Legends, for example, their rank system is known for being really, really bad, really toxic, but there's also a lot of really good progression things. The only other thing outside of the progression is the golden weapons, and it's just like, oh, that's nice. You know, even if I'm a bronze player, I'm getting a golden weapon eventually.
Yeah,
It's like that's.
they need
I mean,
more rewards.
you do need something that is progression for everyone. Otherwise, no one would play. I mean, the fact that you're getting people in bronze buying skins is a good thing. But if there's anything you've learned from any game is that cosmetics don't win games. They just make you look cool.
Right.
So I think that they do need to do something that is progression based, but they shouldn't make it something that's necessarily cosmetic, or they should make it more of like an entitlement or an achievement thing, without making it as cheesy as achievements feel, like getting a spray or getting an icon. You know, I like the ranks. I think the ranks are sweet. The ranks are motivating. I want a little shiny diamond by my name. That sounds sick. You know, but they've really pigeonholed it by making it 500 SR ranks. But at the same time, the 500 SR from point A to point B is a huge accomplishment. You know, like that first day that I snapped into platinum, I was like ballistic, losing my mind for the first time, you know?
Yeah.
But then it kind of loses its luster, and it's like the progression from point A to point B feels really good, but there needs to be some sort of mini progression in between, because then you just feel stagnant.
Yeah, I remember League of Legends, this is a good example, had that problem with like the progression being too far apart. So what they did, they implemented like silver 1 through 5, and then like gold 1 through 5, and that kind of changed
the 5 mini tiers.
Yeah, within the bigger rank itself. So I think that's kind of a cool system. Maybe not exactly modeling that, but it would be interesting to see some change to it.
Even if they just added one more thing, you know, like it's 500 points. Maybe you just add a 250 point bracket. Like once you snap 2750, that's the mid plat point, right? Once you snap above 2750, you get something. Once you snap 2250, you get something. Once you snap the halfway appointed bronze, or once you get, you know, I mean, bronze doesn't really need one. In my opinion, I feel like if you're in bronze, everyone in bronze doesn't want to be there. Everyone wants just to be in silver. They don't really care about their, you know, their mini progression within bronze at all. So, but yeah, that's just some ideas. I feel like they can do more with that, with progression. They can do more with that, with cosmetic things that don't feel cheesy and aren't just golden and shiny.
I'm on my way to getting,
because I don't really find the golden weapons as motivating. I mean, I have the golden weapon on 2 heroes right now, and they're both supports, and I just would like to have a golden weapon on the heroes I play, and then once I get those, it's like, now what's the point?
Yeah, I'm almost...
So I can see why
I almost have
Go
all
ahead.
of them.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in GM right now, you're like, why? I have one for Winston now. It's like, oh, cool.
So,
I got another golden weapon. I got to spend this, or I'm not gonna be able to use my competitive points anymore. Whoops.
Yeah,
I have a Reinhardt hammer now to troll you.
I think
because Reinhardt never gets seen play.
Having some type of ecosystem with competitive points would be cool, or just like skins and different items and options that you could spend your competitive points on. That would be really interesting. Which leads into like actually like I think Jeff Kaplan touched on this, but maybe like being able to trade skins as well as purchase or like gift them as well. That'd be interesting, I think.
See, I don't like the trading thing, but I do love the gifting thing, because that promotes a more positive community. Like, even in a negative game like League of Legends, you can like send the mystery gift things. That was like my favorite thing to do. Every Christmas when I played League, I have like my 3 or 4 buddies, and I would drop like $30-$50, and I would send mystery gifts for like a week, and I would do it like every week of Christmas, because I didn't have that many friends in League, so I just had like 5. But I was like, I'll send you guys a mystery gift like once a week, and it'll be something fun.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing, like receiving
that was
gifts
awesome.
and sending them as well.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was like
Even
a
if
really cool
even if they
feeling.
made it seasonal, right? They gated it. They say you don't get this all the time. That would be cool because then it feels more exclusive and more
Yeah,
special.
just for like certain events, and you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be honest, like grinding for the event stuff can be pretty tedious.
Yeah, it's such a grind to get those too for a lot of people. I know for me, I just like I don't care. Take all my money, Blizzard. I want you guys to use my money for literally anything and everything. Improve my spectator mode. I'll buy skins. That's how I think about it. It's like I'm gonna buy skins even if I don't like them, because then Blizzard gets my money and they can start using it for Overwatch. They can make the game better. I'm helping your budget here, guys. I'm throwing you a bone. Help me out.
Yeah. Like, we can buy skins for other people. Maybe they're just waiting. They probably are thinking about that because it would increase the economy for it, as well as like the different cosmetic. I think they're waiting for when they have a lot
Licensing.
more. Well, yeah, licensing as far as the
OWL stuff.
OWL stuff, yeah, but just in general, they want more content available probably, and then they're going to probably release something like that because they don't want it to get stale or just being able to buy. Because I know right now, even you can't even buy like skins with money. You have to buy loot boxes to get gold or to get a chance at getting the skin that you want. So it's like,
yeah.
So they might release like actually skin buying and gifting when there's a lot more to choose from, which would be interesting.
Right.
Because they don't want to take like the fun out of getting all the, because I have all the skins in the game pretty much, and it's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's not
at least
problem,
the ones that are important to you.
They don't want. Well, I don't have the Japanese Genji one, and I really hope the summer games that's coming.
Dude,
out,
me too.
Oh my god,
me too,
dude.
man.
That skin is like
freaking Nihon Genji. I live in freaking Japan. I should have priority. Yeah. And I don't even have the Japanese flag. I have all the America stuff. It's like I don't want this.
I know.
I want a little white square with a red dot on it, Blizzard. Give it to me.
Please take
give
my
it
money.
to me. And the other thing that was really funny is I got almost every single golden hero portrait.
But the one you
and
play.
I bought. Yeah. Well, no. That's the thing. I got the one I play was one of the last 3 out of the 25, 26 that there are, and all I wanted was a golden Pachimari.
Oh,
and I didn't get it.
That's the best one. I don't think I got it either, actually.
I literally got every single freaking one. I'm not even joking.
Oh, that's tilting.
It's so tilting. I'm like, Blizzard, why is the RNG exclusive for the most stupid cosmetic? Why can't I just spend 25 credits? I will spend 1,000 credits to get that emote or that little icon.
Yeah.
I would give you 1,000 of my credits. How much money do I need to give you to have an icon? 100%. Come on.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think what we probably want to get back to more of the rank thing, because I had one thing I forgot to mention.
Right.
So I think this actually came up when I was watching your stream, when you had somebody in the game who left, was a leaver, but it was like a positive leaving because they left at the beginning of the game. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's taking a hit for the team. He's taking 50 SR of a hit because he wants to send a message to this guy who decides that he's going to be a biohazard to the entire team. And this guy's taking the hit. He's taking off the hazmat suit. He's taking the hit for the team. He's leaving the game. So he's like, all right, guys, I'll throw you something. But that's like dodging Q in any other game. Like you dodge Q in Heroes, you dodge Q in League. I mean, I hate to keep using freaking MOBAs as an example because they're like some of the most awful communities. But you know what I mean? Like if somebody's like being stupid in the beginning of the game and these guys are just like being toxic in a 3-stack and you're like, no, I'm out. The game hasn't started yet. Why do you have to lose 50 SR?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're still in the load-in and, like, people are selecting heroes.
Yeah, I think
you can get a match penalty for queuing.
Yeah,
a waiting penalty's fine.
That's interesting. That's a good thought. Yeah, if they're going to cancel the
even
match
if it's a chat penalty. Even if it's a chat penalty. I would be fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think they should. I mean, it would definitely inspire more people to leave the matches, but at the same time, it's not like it's harming too much. I mean,
But
then
it
again,
improves the
it could be
overall
abused.
beginning quality of a game. You know,
That's
like the
true.
beginning of the game should not be the worst part of the game,
I
or at
know. I know.
least
In League of
the
Legends, you don't.
catalyst.
Do you lose SRV dodge in League? I think you do, right?
No, because you don't even get into like you're basically in hero select picks and bans,
Right.
and then you can leave. So you don't lose any rank.
You don't
Elo
lose
is I think the
MMR or
term that they
anything.
use. You don't lose any of that if you leave before everyone gets summoned into the rift. Once it says match started and
Starting,
people
and
are loading in their
then it
heroes
fucks
and
over
all of the
League.
picks and
Yeah.
bans are gone through and everybody's locked in, then you lose rank.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting because it would make it so. I mean, I feel like it probably could get too much abuse. Like that's the one thing you have to think about. And I hate to say that, but I feel like people would just leave every single game. They would probably stack Q, and then they would just only take the matches that are like preferable to them and like rotate Q dodging. And yeah, that would be abusable in
Yeah,
my
but you
opinion.
see, like I don't think it's that big of a deal if you're giving somebody a penalty for dodging. That's the balance, right? You're giving them like, okay, so you have to wait. Your first time you ever Q dodge is 5-10 minutes, and the next time you Q dodge 30 minutes. You know, it's a long time to dodge. But it's like if this guy is that bad, you're gonna dodge.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
true.
I'm okay with taking a 30-minute hiatus if I don't have to play with this dude who is being,
Yeah, and maybe
the
make a
worst type of human being that I will basically dodge Q and immediately go to my recent played list and put that guy in
on the
my
list.
best bet of a ban hammer.
Yeah, and they
You
should
know,
do avoid players too, maybe, or just maybe have a priority queue for
well they did do
trolls.
that.
They did a bit, then they took it off, and I think they should revamp that system and reintroduce it, and also
Do
have
you
a
remember
low
why they
priority.
did that?
No, I don't actually, but I know they had it
So I
avoid.
remember this was actually came from an anecdote on a video that I was watching today. I can't remember who it was. It was probably like Lone Hawk or Stylos or some one of the mega
Yeah,
YouTubers like your Overwatch or Overwatch Central or something. But they were saying that uh, a Widowmaker player realized that his queue times were super long and he kept getting matched with people that were like 200, 300 SR below where his skill bracket was. And it was because people had hit the avoid player button on him, both enemy teams and ally teams, because he'll insta-lock the Widowmaker. So
yeah.
people that don't like having a Widowmaker at the beginning of the game will do that, and then they'll realize he's really good and they won't revert it.
So he just got
Or
like
you'll play
preferable
against other people.
matches.
They're like, oh, this guy's an aimbot. I'm going to avoid this guy. I don't want to ever play against that guy again because that was awful. Getting
So then
dumpstered
he'd
by this
have to wait
Widowmaker.
for an hour long queue or sometimes or something like that.
You got it.
Yeah,
You got it. So they
I
have
kind
to
of
figure
remember that.
something out if that's going to be a factor because there are holes to pretty much anything you're going to implement,
I
like
think
we've mentioned
they
with Q
should
dodging.
just put all the toxic trolls on an island and just have them play their own version of Overwatch. and
Yeah, the problem with
call it a day.
the problem with toxic players is everyone has a little bit of toxic player in them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think what you got to do is you have to have some sort of system where it's like progressive, and then there has to be there's always going to be the line for when zero tolerance kicks in.
Yeah.
And the zero tolerance button doesn't seem to exist. And the other thing is, when you do hit the report button, there is zero verification that what you're doing is actually doing something. And there seems to make the system like as difficult as humanly possible if you're on console.
Oh, and I know. Like that's another thing. There's just
Like some
no
people say you can't even
support
do
for
it. There's
console.
like a special form that you can fill out on the website on BattleNet, and there's also like the in-game, PlayStation Network report
PlayStation
system
Network,
and
which they never
Xbox,
check.
Microsoft Live.
Microsoft
Yeah,
report that they never check because
right,
it's
right, right,
Microsoft.
right.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, console needs a little bit more support because it's just I don't know. I feel like it's just console for Overwatch is just kind of like, oh, well, we'll give you guys something to play on, but we're not going to really care about it, which is interesting because if Blizzard owns like MLG and they have like this they have player bases in consoles, so you would think that they would do something to sustain those communities and listen to their players a little bit better.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the console wars are, or not just console players. I would even say that console developers think that they're the big cheese a little bit too much, because console stuff is just not a thing in China at all. From what I was when I was there,
Korea's
I
like
mean, they
that
had to
as well.
create their own. Yeah, exactly. They had to create their entire own thing that looks like a hybrid of Xbox and PlayStation to start having game developers write for as a different platform, because of whatever their bans are in importing and exporting and all that. And then obviously you have, cultural prejudices and any number of political things for imports and exports, as well as the financial side of things for the government. So
Yeah, it's
console
all
is just not gaining enough traction globally,
it's all centralized
I
there in
think.
China.
And the only one that's really knowing how to do the console thing globally is Nintendo.
Nintendo,
Because
yeah,
Nintendo
they're
doesn't make
pioneers
it
on
a
it as well.
highly competitive thing. They just make it more about family and fun. And people like that globally. So they're going for it.
So we have a question from the viewers.
Sure.
Laura Suris wanted to know what your favorite support is in Overwatch. Because
My favorite support. Well, I'll answer it a little bit differently than maybe she's anticipating, because I like playing support, period. I have actually found Lucio to be the most difficult to master. I say that because I haven't mastered any of them yet, and I feel like for me personally, Lucio is the most difficult to play properly,
right.
as well as min max his kit. Because even when I'm playing well with Lucio, I feel like I could do so much more than I'm currently doing in the game.
Gotcha.
Even when I have like the game of my life. And on the other side of the spectrum, I feel like the first character in Overwatch that I enjoyed playing and started seeing some significant results was when I was playing Mercy in Season 1. I played with a guy who is now a GM, almost. He's gotten super close to top 500 multiple times. I think he's a 2 or 3 season GM Genji player. His character name is Young Genji. I don't know if you've played with him before, but he's a guy I met in my LAN, and he basically one-tricked Genji for all of Season 1. And he said that I knew what I was doing, and I knew that this guy was a very talented player. So that was a big moment for me personally. And we were playing in a LAN tournament with a bunch of people that are all around the same skill level aside from him, and I was on his team. And one of the games in the final round, I was actually able to carry the team with, I think, 2 5-player reses in the same game on Volskaya to full hold on point 2. And I had gotten sniped at the beginning of a fight from a Hanzo, and I came in and res the team, and it flipped the point because I damage boosted our Genji through a Dragon Blade after the res, and it was like the most glorious feeling. So I will forever be a Mercy player and identify with her, but this season in particular, I love playing Zenyatta. And I actually had XRYZ. You did a VOD review of one of my Zen games. And it was one of my prouder moments, too, because I was fragging out, man. I just, sniped this Mercy from across the map a couple times. It was awesome. I was like, Kobe! In chat and stuff. It was a lot of fun. But we ended up doing okay in that game. And I have a lot of things that I want to min-max on Zenyatta. But I feel like he's very, very, very rewarding. Because all you have to do as Zenyatta to provide value for your team is have the orbs going out at all cylinders and just staying alive. And even if you're not fragging out, you can get so much value from Zen.
Yeah, sometimes I'll miss all my shots, but I'll still be doing a good job.
Right. Right, exactly. And so I feel like he's really rewarding, because with Mercy, you're rewarded for being a crazy witch flying around in your broomstick, that's kind of we flying around the game, staying alive, damage boosting, weaving everything in, getting reses to keep the tempo of the game together and your team alive. You definitely do feel like a doctor in a hospital where people are
Yeah.
just dying so fast, like all the time. So I do like that her kit fills that same lore role. But then I played Ana. I will always have a special role in my heart for Ana because she was what was the ticket when she was busted. She was my ticket for platinum. I played almost exclusively Ana for season 3,
Yeah.
and that got me to
Did
platinum.
you have the speed boost using her when she had speed
This
boost
is
on
actually
Nana?
after Beyblade, but before the grenade nerf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna put in the hours. I'm gonna learn this hero,
She was still
and I did it.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was carrying games because I was able to snipe problem Pharahs. And now you can't do that.
Yeah,
But
they nerfed the
well,
damage.
you can, but it's significantly harder. So I got really good with Ana. I can still play her, but I feel like I can't get as much value out of her with only healing Winstons and Divas because I keep getting blocked with Matrixes and Winston bubbles that I can't hit my heals, and it's so frustrating. So that's why I like playing Zenyatta now, because I can just I can kill people.
He fits
But
pretty
yeah,
well. Too.
I answer your question by saying what I like about each one, but I think that my favorite one to play is probably tied right now with Mercy and Zenyatta.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. But yeah,
for me,
it's my most played is Mercy for sure.
Mercy Sim for me.
Oh yeah, Symmetra I have the highest win rate of any hero. Because I play her only in the specific situations on defense predominantly.
I play her all the time. It's a good way to get win rate though, is play her in the good situations. I was gonna ask what got you into podcasting and content creation? Because I know you run the Omniclab, and I'll probably you might be able to intro this question by telling us a little bit about what Omniclab is, which is the Overwatch podcast that you run, and then kind of what got you started into podcasting in general, and just kind of where it's taken off to now, and just like why you started that, and like what got you excited about it.
So ever since playing World of Warcraft back in my high school days, I have done nothing more to enjoy my gaming experience than when I'm not playing theory crafting. I don't know what it is, but theory crafting has always been something that I enjoy equal, if not more than playing the game. Like I would download apps for League of Legends and look up crazy build ideas and oh my gosh, you can play this character as an attack damage, and they're meant to be a spell dealer, you know, like when heroes like Varus were like, oh my gosh, you can play this 80 carry as an AP hero and he's busted, or blue build Ezreal, oh my gosh, you know, like stuff like that. And then like I played a shaman in WoW. Almost exclusively I played shaman, and I was an elemental shaman when Lava Burst came out, and I was like, holy crap, this ability does a crap ton of damage. And I want to try to do whatever I can. So I'm looking up optimal, you know, stuff. So all of that to say, the theory crafting and discussion and write-ups and ideas and talking about this on chat logs or iMessage with buddies or Facebook group text just didn't scratch the itch enough. You know, and I was in grad school at the time when I started realizing that I'm just like, I would rather talk about this than play the game more often than not. I need to do something. And I started finding, you know, this is when I first started finding Hearthstone and kind of getting turned on to Twitch and like the dawn of Twitch, and podcasting started back when I listened to the Instance for Warcraft with Patrick and Randy Jordan and Scott Johnson. And I loved their show. I thought it was the coolest thing. And that was the only podcast I've ever heard of. And then I stopped listening. And then back when I got to college or finished up, you know, I started finding a couple other podcasts for Hearthstone. I was like, oh, I'll just listen to these. Right. And I was so sick of it because I found this online community from The Angry Chicken, which is a podcast by Garrett Weinzierl and Willie Dills Gregory and Jocelyn Moffat. And they are in the A-Move TV network, and Garrett and Dills are good friends with Scott Johnson. So that's how I found them. And Garrett was doing the Angry Chicken, and I loved their show and joined their subreddit, and then found some people that do a game night. And then in that game night, I actually met Andres and a guy named Brian, who were doing a Hearthstone podcast called Hearthaholics. And they just started it after my grad school. And I told them for months, I've been telling them, I was like, you guys got to start a podcast. It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. But they actually all had to walk away from it and just recently resurged with 3 completely different members, and they're doing a completely different direction for the show. But that aside, that's where I met Andres, my co-host for Omniclab, was actually through Hearthstone. And I had just gotten sick of it. I was like, I'm done. They started the podcast before I graduated grad school. I want to talk about a game. I want to do podcasting. And I was like, I put out a tweet on Twitter. I was like, you know what? I want to do a Hearthstone podcast. If you're interested, let me know. I was just like, open forum. Let's just, yeah. I'll interview you. I was like, if we have good symmetry, I don't really care. I don't have any good friends right here. I don't even have any good friends from college or grad school that played Hearthstone. I was just me. It's like, I love this game. I want to talk about it. And so that got me into meeting Eve, my co-host for Velen's Chosen, my Hearthstone podcast, and Andrew, the guy that helped us start, just a random Twitter follower. And Eve was somebody that I met at the same forum as Andres on the game nights for Hearthstone. So we started that. I've been podcasting that for about 8 months, and it was like September of 2015. So we're actually this week is episode 100, and I have to miss it because I'm going to a barbecue. Oh. Or I'm sorry, this is episode 99. So the next episode I'll make it is episode 100. But cool. We've been going for almost 2 years on this podcast. Yeah.
Or the big number, the triple digit.
Right.
So what?
So that's how I got into podcasting.
That's awesome, actually. That's pretty cool. I got it in kind of the same way. I was just like, I kind of want to talk about this more. So I like made a tweet, and it just started. And I originally had 2 hosts with the show, but they kind of dropped out of interest. It's like hard to find like good people that are actually like passionate about it. So I just kind of made it.
It really is.
Yeah. So I just kind of made it just myself, and just doing interviews with like I want to try to interview as many people as I can to talk about like the just the esports scene. And it's really interesting. I'm starting to realize now it's like I can almost build like I can build a narrative on the scene and almost kind of like add to the conversation as much as possible. And theory crafting is a cool thing too for me, and I think it's something that I want to get into maybe in the future with like a metacraft type of show. But because that's what this was originally supposed to be. But then since I lost the hosts, I'm probably just turning it more into an interview series, which is interesting because I could add like different people to come on and talk about the meta. But I definitely like talking about like things that aren't necessary, because I'm a coach for OWCraft as well, and I think there's not a lot of innovation or theory crafting really going on in Overwatch. So I think, and I mean there probably is behind doors like on the pro teams, but it's really just
right, but it's super secret.
Yeah, there's just really like this. There's no public like experimentation of the meta, and it's just like this copy pasted dive comps over and over. So it's interesting to be able
it was good to have you get your feet wet and help us out on Omniclab last week. I mean, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we're talking about some cool stuff with Symmetra, and we're like,
oh man,
you can do whatever you want with Symmetra.
That was so much fun to be on your show, by the way. That was the coolest thing.
Oh, I'm glad.
I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad.
And I think that leads to my next question. Well, not really a question, but can you tell us about Omniclabs and where to find it, and also like just what it is and what you guys do, the exciting stuff you do with the Overwatch community, and like what you guys talk about on it?
So I'll read it from our website, since Andres and I have carefully crafted this, but basically we're a podcast that focuses on the strategy of Overwatch. So you see us in iTunes, you see us wherever. It's Omniclab, a strategic Overwatch podcast. So if it has to do with Overwatch and it has to do with strategy, we gonna cover it. So the whole idea of Omnic and Lab is Omnic is something that's Overwatch and Lab is something that is experimental. And we like the idea of cooking up some ideas, you know, like you're brewing up some witch's brew and you want to work on something new, and it could be really good or it could be really crazy or it could blow up. And you don't even know what you're gonna get. And the crazy thing that I love about the show is that it's trial and error, which means we get people like you coming in talking about Symmetra, and then we get somebody in silver playing Symmetra, and they're like, "But XRYZ said this is good, and I'm just dying." You know, like,
No.
you know, and I'm not saying that happened. I'm just using this as a fun illustration. It's like sometimes the strats are gonna blow up because you haven't figured it out just yet. You don't got the secret sauce, or you haven't actually been doing exactly what he's saying, because it's limited. It's audio, so we're trying to do whatever we can to give you another medium that you can consume outside of videos and give you some tips to play better in an audio portion, because I feel like it's not that there are any lack of understanding of how to do certain things and videos out there and people coaching and VOD reviews and, you know, streams. Like, you can do that. But there are a lot of people out there that are at work with jobs where they're typing or jobs where they're doing something that is not fun, you know, cleaning carpets, cleaning toilets. I mean, my job, I sit at my desk when I'm not teaching a class. It's great to sit down for 2 hours on a prep period. I don't actually need to prep and I can listen to a podcast. Or commuters. Commuters is the other one. People that drive trucks or people that drive an hour and a half to work.
Right, yeah.
You know,
they obviously can't
want
watch
something
video.
else to do and you can't watch a video. Exactly. So it's also really good because it basically provides dialogue for Overwatch. It gets your gears moving. It's a thought-provoking strategy idea. And we want to spin it in a way that is helpful as much as possible. And so we did this without any guests, and our show blew up on Overwatch launch, and I couldn't tell you how. I honestly don't know. Apparently we scratched the right itch at the right time, and the branding and the stuff that we did in the back end. And we, meaning mostly me, actually.
Like
Andres was surprised to see, like, I can't remember what the podcast is. The guy's going to kill me because he interviewed me as well, but he interviewed both me and Andres. And hearing Andres' side of how Omniclab became a thing is really, really cool. I think that he tells the story better than I do, because I just, like, grinded so many hours into Photoshop and like Google and try to set up stuff, and had a lot of backdrop with my podcast for Hearthstone. But that aside, Omniclab is something that you as an Overwatch listener can enjoy without necessarily needing to watch a screen, and you can gain something from that. And we wanted to make sure that we could do that for anyone, but we want to make the strategies such that they are tangibly understandable and also easy to parse for any player, whether it's XRYZ on the show telling you how to play Symmetra, or XRYZ, you as a listener are tuning in because, yo, we got Jardio on the show, and I want to learn as a GM level player how to optimize both playing as and playing against and playing with a Mei, because she's not played very often.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I get this guy on my duo queue. I can figure out what he's doing and I can actually help him out. Or I know what he's going to do and he's going to kill me, so I'm not going to do that anymore, you know? So I feel like even GM and Masters and Diamond players are finding a lot of help now that we've gotten big enough to start getting bigger guests, people that are in GM, people that are one tricks. I think that there's a lot of value of getting one tricks in the show because they can tell you how to optimize the specific things about the kit without necessarily advocating that you do exactly what they did.
Yeah, maybe some secret stuff.
You know? Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people will give us flack for on our show, which I always like to dispel, is that if you want to master a hero, why don't you go with somebody who has more hours on that hero than the pros and is in the top rank with the pros? I mean, I feel like that's just as equal as an opinion. I mean, you want to bring the pros on eventually. I mean, that's why we got LG Evil Jake on, and we got Fact Fiction on, and we got people like Skyline on. Like, these guys are helping you not just get the hero, but get the hero in a composition mindset. And I think that's valuable as well. And the one tricks will have some ideas of what can work for you. But we also have been adamant that people that we get on the show that are quote unquote one tricks are not people that say one tricking is the best way to go, or even people that say that this is my favorite hero, but I don't always play them. I mean, XR, you play way more Mercy on your stream than you play Symmetra sometimes.
Yeah.
And PvP, I've seen PvP play way more Reinhardt in a couple streams than he's ever even touched. And he's been playing Widow on stream. And people are like, is this Kefri's stream? You know?
Yeah.
And like, there's stuff like that happens. So, I mean, we try to get people that are not just one tricks, but we also try to get people that are just good personalities and good teachers. And that is very rare. So on the back end, it's really, really, there's a lot of subtle things we like to do with our show that is not always obvious.
Yeah.
But
Like the
I mean,
right
if you look at
and stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at what Jake is doing right now. Jake is going on the overview 2 or 3 times now to talk about esports and other stuff. He started up writing a blog. Jake is a grinder beyond grinders, man. He's in school. He's on a pro team. He's talking Overwatch on print. He's talking pro Overwatch in videos with people like Your Overwatch and Overwatch Central. He's doing stuff on podcasts. He's hitting every medium, and he is making sure that you know who LG Evil Jake is, as well as that he knows what he's talking about. Like, that guy is doing work, and it was a real pleasure to get him on the show because he talked about Soldier 76 for us, but he talked about a hero in a completely different way than somebody else would have ever even talked about, even if we talked with like the best Soldier 76 in the game, which there's way too many of them at this stage. But
yeah, it's basically like,
that's kind of what Omniclab is. I mean, we get people like XRYZ. We've had we've got fact fiction. Like, if you want to go and figure out who we've had on the show, you can go to omniclab.com/archive. And then there's a hero guide, which will do all of the Going Deep, which is a series that we do deep dives on every individual hero. And you can find who we have on those shows. But the hero guides are not always going to have a guest. So we have 29 hero guides, but we have 23 guests, because we did a Lucio show and a Reaper show before we had any reach. And we did those by ourselves. And this is all before Lucio had even gotten changed.
You should get the... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You should get the that one guy who mains Reaper in top 500. I know he has another name.
Oh, Spirit?
Spirit, yeah. I don't know like how his personality is, but he's scary to play versus.
Yeah. I've heard some different things about his personality. I haven't checked his stream out, but I like to do a little bit of research before I check some people out. But I have heard his name dropped for the Reaper show. He is very good at Reaper. Regardless of what you think of people in general at top 500, the dude knows how to play Reaper.
Yeah.
That's something you take to the bank.
That is true. So, yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, like the thing that we get a lot of, I'll say this before I close out Omniclab chat, but the thing that the show is really tough to do is hit every cylinder. Strategy is so big of a topic, and we do notice that Going Deep is the #1 most requested and most sought after and most downloaded thing in our feed. And so we try to do that as often as we can. But there's so much news that has impact. There's maps that we love to cover. There's strategies that we like to cover. I'll give you a little hint if you guys are actually listening, because I told you to from an Omniclab source to listen to OWCraft. I'll give you a little hint. We have Andres working on some really cool stuff about the dive comp. Hopefully before it dies, or if it dies, or if it just gets crazy. We have some cool people that we're going to try to do a quad cast and try to do some dive comp stuff. So scheduling's a little nutso right now, but Andres has got some really cool ideas of what he wants to do, talking about dive comp. So we'll see. There's no promises as when this is. There's no timeline. I won't even tell you who, but I'm just telling you dive comp is on the horizon and it's coming. So we don't like doing heroes all the time. Andres is actually the one that's advocating that we do it less, and I'm the one that's pushing it more because I see the numbers. But
I think it's good to like.
It's so hard. There's 26 heroes.
Yeah.
You know, and by the time, I mean, you look at it from a content creation, you want to do them all, but at the time you finish them all, that's 26 weeks of content.
I know,
because there's 26 heroes or 27 heroes, or however many there are now. 27 is Doomfist, right?
Yeah, 27.
Yeah.
you could be missing out
And there's
on like
52 weeks in a year.
other opportunities. So like spreading it out more is not necessarily like a bad thing.
Yeah. There's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah, so that's
So
like
over half of the year has been dedicated to heroes.
That's crazy. But it's good.
So,
like the people like
yeah.
it too because it gives them
Right.
insight onto playing the hero. But you know, there's also different topics, like you said, the dive comp per se, and just different strategic elements of the game that you could cover
Mm-hmm.
as well. So a lot. I think it's like an infinite medium that you can definitely produce content like for a long time about strategy, and it's cool. Like in a game like Overwatch, the strategy is always evolving. So it's very
Oh,
exciting to
yeah.
listen to something that's talking about it.
Yeah. And last, I think that there are the one thing that we wanted to do that was different as a niche ended up being the primary thing that people actually look for. And so we got really rewarded by that, I think. And that's why we got such a big following and community and all the people that are listening to the show, you know, as well as landing really cool guests that know what they're talking about. Definitely helps when you don't. I know that I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about all the time, and I will readily admit that. But
Yeah, good.
The show,
expert advice.
the podcasting sphere as a whole has no shortage for people talking about passionately esports and the game, casually, fun things, news. I feel like those are things that people do in the podcasting scene, and we do those things, but we do that through the lens of strategy as best as we can. It's entertainment, but it's on a certain axis of seriousness. We like to be fun, but I don't know. Andres and I are a little too serious for our britches sometimes, and it kind of bugs me, but it also doesn't because I like the way it feels. It scratches that strategy itch.
Yeah,
but,
that's what matters.
You gotta cut
you're
loose.
having fun with it.
Right.
I actually like the serious nature of like the podcast, and I haven't watched all of the episodes, but sometimes that can be a good thing because it caters more to like the esports player too, or just like, and it also caters to the casual as well. But it has a broad reach because there's a lot of like good insight within that seriousness and just like the strategy that's being discussed.
It's definitely a tough balance too.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure you try to do it with OWCraft as well. Like you have these serious interviews, but I mean, with anything, there's people, and people like humor. It keeps you interested. You don't have this dross of just like, and now we're gonna talk about Icewall and the cryo freeze and Blizzard. You know, you have to. I was even telling Jardio this, and he kept rolling. I think I got him to roll his eyes at least 20 times in the show. I was like, we can't talk about May without having terrible puns. Come on. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and also balancing like the community with OWC because we try to cater for
the
top tier competitive as well as just the casual player base as well. So it's definitely a hard balance, you know, of audience that you have to cater to both. And
yeah,
it's fun though. It's definitely rewarding. So I guess doing it more will make me somewhat experienced at it. That's the hope, at least.
Shoot, we've been going a while.
Yeah.
We've been going to town on this show this week, huh?
Yeah, I'm very excited. So I just wanted to finish it off, I guess, by asking where can they find, you said earlier for Omniclab, it's omniclab.com, if I got that correct.
Sure.
And is there anywhere else they can find you as well as the podcast that you are hosts on, even multiple ones?
Oh, yeah, sure. So if you want to find me, sure. Definitely shout out to my co-host, Andres, for helping me build this amazing show. There are weeks where I feel like I'm picking up his slack, and then there are weeks where I'm getting destroyed by the time zones, and Andres just comes through like a monster. Like today, he's at DreamHack. He edited the show in less than 12 hours of us recording for Jardio for us to put it up so he could go to DreamHack Atlanta. So big shout out to Andres for being the bomb. He does all of our audio editing. He does all of the mixing, the intro to the song, both old and new. Andres actually did it himself with another guy, and it's available on iTunes if you want to get it. So that's a little plug for Andres. You can go find it there. If you want to find our show, the best way to find anything about Omniclab is go to omniclab.com/links. You can find everything. Patreon, dive deeps, the search bar on what you want to find, Twitter, Facebook, even our Discord community, which is unbelievable. 24-hour community anywhere on the globe, console, PC, whatever you're looking for, it's there. And if you want to find me, I just at Notrob. It's like the dumbest tag ever. I actually ripped it off from Patrick from the instance, and he messaged me on Twitter when he found out that my tag was like his.
Was his not
And he's like,
Patrick or
"No
something?
way, that's so cool." Yeah, his is not Patrick.
That's funny.
So it was pretty funny. I'm really looking forward to meeting him and Scott Johnson in person at the BlizzCon. So if you guys are going to BlizzCon, let me know. Tweet at me. I'll see you there. Really excited about that. But yeah, if you want to find that, if you like Hearthstone, it's just Velen's Chosen. That's VELENSCHOSEN.com. VelensChosen.com. That's Hearthstone. Similar to Omniclab, we talk about decks and teaching and how to play them and what's interesting about the deck builds and what's interesting about the deck decisions and what are some possible substitutions and what are your matchups and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it from me.
Very cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and talk about the podcast as well as just everything that we talked about. I had a lot of fun talking with you this morning.
Yeah, me too.
It was pretty cool. So
It's a good show.
yeah, and for any of our viewers listening, the OWC podcast for esports culture is a weekly interview series, bi-weekly actually. We do it on Tuesdays as well as Fridays. Sometimes the times vary, but it'll always be live, and the show is always uploaded to YouTube as well as iTunes as well. So and Anchor if anybody uses that platform, which is newer. But anyways, so Tuesdays and Fridays, that is our show. So that is our episode for today. Thank you guys for listening in.